What is so unethical it should be illegal? Real estate wholesaling. Have that contract and assign the contract to another investor at a higher price, pocketing the difference that under normal circumstances without the wholesaler would have gone to the desperate owner. To mark up on glasses and major glasses monopolies. There is no reason that it should be legal to sell necessary medical equipment for thousands more than it costs to produce, and to refuse to even offer cheaper, lower-cost alternatives is insane. Buying some of the cheapest glasses I could at the only lab in town, I paid over $250. Over $250 for some plastic that costs a fraction of a penny to produce. Breeding pets for specific traits that come along with hideous detrimental genetic diseases and health problems due to the designer breeding requiring heavy inbreeding. Look into the birth defects and genetic problems with double merle and harlequin Great Danes, spider morph ball pythons, enigma leopard geckos, Scottish fold cats, hybrid dwarf hamsters, and many more. Buying defaulted debt and still trying to collect, harassing those that defaulted. The debtors probably don't even know their debt was written off either. I have a client that does this. Yeah, it makes money, but it seems unethical. I like to think people would pay their bills if they could. I don't actually think it should be illegal, that the damage done by cheater in a relationship, especially with kids, is incredibly high when you compare it to some crimes that are punishable. For example, I'd rather have my wallet stolen than find out my wife has been with someone else. Public schools not informing parents that standardized testing is almost always optional. Collecting data and metrics of children in public schools, which is then sold to various institutions for research and grant funding, or handed over to government agencies for God knows what. Payday loan places. Predatory lending affects the people least able to afford it, who also happen to be the people least able to effectively advocate for themselves when it comes to laws that might rein those businesses in. Childhood indoctrination. Children should not be taught about torture, sinful nature, and self-hatred, taught to forfeit their critical thought and blindly believe in unprovable nonsense or else suffer for eternity. Disgusting. Insurance denying coverage despite it being clearly something that is covered. This practice is so common that the only reason it continues to exist is because the insurance companies own politicians. The entirety of Wall Street and modern corporate America basically, stock buybacks, golden parachutes, slave labor in the global south or China, worker exploitation, price gouging. It goes on, spreading misinformation that results in people taking poisons, or avoiding vaccines or life-saving treatments. No, I have no idea how to stop it while simultaneously protecting free speech. Charities, only using a tiny % of what they take in to actually do what they're promising to do, while the rest goes to the people running the charity and more fundraising. Almost every type of insurance, pay into something fears. Make a claim and your rates go up. Get medical treatment and then the insurance company fights to not pay it. Lobbying. It's illegal when you call it bribery, but change a few arbitrary technicalities and suddenly is fine. No, fuck that. Bribery should be illegal. Period. Payday loans, credit cards, mortgages, etc., with variable interest rates, which are custom designed and engineered to make your debt go bang if you even falter a bit. Politicians in general, politicans have all the power, and it's fairly absolute. And that means they are some of the most corrupted fucking things on the planet. Almost all shoe brands and styles. The majority of shoes really do squish and contort our toes into an unnatural state. It's insane and should be illegal. Nestle's continued privatization of natural resources in developing countries is disgusting and should definitely be illegal. Fuck those greedy bastards. Billionaires buying plots of land, especially agricultural land, then developing it for housing or condos, then making sure only a few can afford it. There are much worse things on this thread, but unpaid internships are pretty bad, especially when you're doing things that make the company money. Infant circumcision. How the fuck does somebody else get to decide what your dick should look like? My body, my choice should apply to everyone. For-profit prisons and those youth treatment centers that kidnap your teenager in the middle of the night and take them off to a life of abuse. Car parks that fine you about 20x the cost of parking if you overstay. It's clear they make a huge part of their income from unreasonable fines. Tobacco. The tobacco industry is responsible for deaths in the US every year for everyone working in the tobacco industry. That's insane. I think it depends on which approach to ethics you take. Kant versus utilitarianism are going to have widely different outcomes to this question. Misleadingly selling unneeded and unwanted shit to old people, and to people not in the know of things in general, but old people especially. Pyramid schemes Amelmiz. I will admit, I'm not sure exactly the best way to go after them, which is probably why they have lasted this long. Payday loans, interest rates should not be as they are personally. I've never had to take one out, but damn, they really making money. Refusing medical care based on financial means. Allowing people to die because they don't have millions of dollars to pay for care. Corporations hiring contractors, getting away with not paying benefits to what they only claim aren't full-time employees. Healthcare system, political anything, most government agencies. I'm not anti-USA, but come on, it's gotten way out of hand. Guns, it's literally meant to shoot at, cause damage and or kill things. Best case targets and animals. Worst case humans. Answering every single us credit question with the same old garbage instead of thoughtfully answering the question. Breeding dogs. There are so many who need homes, and breeding the wrong way causes so many harmful genetic defects. YouTube videos narrated by one obvious AI to robot recitation of a script written in Russia, China. Unimitstan. Lobbying. Some will say it can be ethical when the right people do it, but the concept itself is abusive. Youth beauty pageants. The few I've seen segments of give me Majike vibes. USDA certified chomo bait until it is regulated to be ethical. The donor conception industry. They are literally creating humans. Elected people participating in stock markets that they have influence over or knowledge of via work. Selling pineapple on pizza. It's just irresponsible. Sometimes you have to save people from themselves. Politicians being treated like they're human beings rather than the snake oil salesman trash they are. Gambling being all over the commercials during games. I love to gamble, but with a bookie or in Vegas. Posting this same fucking question on Reddit every 2 hours for months at a time. What is happening? Judges campaigning for office and raising money from various law firms to fund their campaigns. Factory farming, just despicable, and the fact that it goes on makes me feel awful about humanity. Claiming disability pension when you could easily work but convince yourself and others you can't. A biased judiciary, be it political, sexual, racial and or financial. Law is meant to be blind. Reading through the top comments, so many are US specific or close to. Such a crazy country. Politicians being paid off through private parties. They rename the buy-off as campaign donations. Record profits of supermarkets, banking and utility companies during cost of living crises. Revoking work from home privileges just so people quit and you don't have to pay for layoffs. Owning more land and you have a constructive purpose for land banking, property hoarding. Needing record profits every year and pushing everyone and everything else down to get it. Pharmaceutical commercials in the US, sometimes they don't even say what the drug is for. 90 of the profit go into people who did nothing while the rest of us fight for the 10. Insurance challenging doctors on needed meds that are covered that they don't want to pay. Leaving you shopping cart in your parking spot instead of putting it up with the rest. Lying to people for donations and not paying any tax on said donations. i.e. religion, probably gangster culture. It is the true detritus of humanity, just absolute trash. Continually raising the rates for old folks in homes until their estates are drained. Harming others because of their race or religion should be against the law. That thing where you pretend to throw a ball so your dog tries to fetch it. IVF, forced conception of egg that would never happen. Worse, the abortions. Daylight savings time. Also, flying private except for heads of state. Scottish accepting expensive gifts from billionaire right-wing donors. Short-term rentals and private investment in residential real estate. Gerrymandering. We're stuck with Jim Jordan in Ohio until he dies. Politicians accepting donations for re-election that aren't blinded. Regulators who go back to work in the same industry with a raise. The entire IMF and their privatization of natural water resources. That you can buy enough alcohol to black out and do serious damage. Stock buybacks. They used to be illegal as market manipulation, forcing children to be in videos so you can be an influencer, owning a home without occupying it as your primary residence, cops lying, even while stating they are being 100% truthful. Murder seems pretty unethical. I think it should be illegal. Unashamedly bribing Supreme Court justices springs to mind. Buying hamsters and then cooking them in the parking lot. The cost of healthcare costing anything tbh. All forms of non-therapeutic genital cutting of minors. Cigarettes, alcohol, gambling, factory work iPhone. Being able to leave a baby outside of a fire station.